this stretch that the Mariners are currently on, this is the best they have played since when?
2001?
Probably. Probably. I mean, this current 30-game stretch they're on is historic. Think about this. This is from OptiStats on Twitter. The Mariners were 38-42 entering July, and since I think this was as of Sunday, they're 36-14. That is the best winning percentage by any American League team in their first 50 games after entering the month of July under 500 ever.
That's ridiculous. I mean, look, when they won 14 in a row last year, that was electric. But when you look at the season as a whole, there was that 14-game win streak, and then there was a lot of hills and valleys in the season. Similar to 2023, although it didn't take as long last year. They did not start hot out of the gate. I mean, they were 10 under 500 at one point. It might have been more doom and gloom in 22 than it was in 23 before they really turned it around. But this stretch we're seeing right now, we talked about it over text this weekend. We said this is the best the team has ever played in our lifetime. And that might be true. The 14-game win streak was great last year, but this prolonged stretch where they are just dismantling every opponent they play, nearly every opponent, is the best we've ever seen them play.
A's hanging within a run tonight?
I don't know. At the time of recording, JP already hit a home run, so we'll see. And man...
Oh, he did? I didn't even check.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, we were joking before we started recording. It's like, man, who's on the mound for the A's tonight? Oh, it's Kyle Muller. It's like, let's see what his Savant page looks like. It's like, oh, so he's a lefty version of Jordan Lyles?
It looks like the cool blue Gatorade. That's what his Savant page looks like. Not the Glacier Freeze, the good Gatorade flavor. No, it's the dark Gatorade flavor. In other words, the dark blue Gatorade flavor, meaning he has not been good. He gets hit incredibly hard. He does not get a lot of chase. He's had a bad year. How else can we say it?
Do you want another tidbit on this historic Mariners stretch? This is from Sarah Langs. They're the first team in the month of August or later to have multiple 8-game win streaks in a calendar month since the Orioles in August of 1980.
There's so many historical traits about this team right now. We headlined all of Julio's historical records that he shattered last week. Now it's the team as a whole. Everybody is just mashing right now. And we've talked about that's the whole difference in the turnaround. It's been the offense. It was never a problem of the pitching. It's been the offense. Look at this team now. They have 10 qualified hitters with a WRC plus of 105 or better. Oh, by the way, that does not include my guy Demo, who has a 145 WRC plus, still and more. So you're talking about 11 guys currently positioned on this roster that are above average hitters. How long have we talked about the offense being a problem over the last 3 years? Because right now it's far from it.
And how long did we just yearn back in May for the Atlanta Braves offense in which the Mariners now have quite literally turned into the American League version of the Atlanta Braves? This current offense with the way they're hitting, like that's what they do. Go look at the stats. I mean, they're very similar. We highlighted it last week, but when you say 10 guys with a WRC plus above 105, like that's the Braves' major strength is that they don't have any weak spots in their lineup. Mariners are the same way now.
It's crazy. Everybody is hitting. Even Josh Rojas, who is not at 105 for the season because he had such a tough start in Arizona. We've talked about him at length over the last week or so now. He has been awesome. He stayed hot this weekend against the Royals. He had another homer. He didn't hit any homers in Arizona this year.
Here's some more context for you. I mean, we're just throwing out stats, but there's so many fun stats about it. I'm just going to keep reading. Our friend Michael Fisher, friend of the podcast, runs the Codified account on Twitter. So over the Mariners' last 35 games, he says they're 27-8. Of those 8 losses, the Mariners lost them by a grand total of 10 combined runs. 10 combined runs. And if we think about this current stretch where the Mariners had 2 8-game win streaks, and around those 2 8-game win streaks, there were 4 losses. 3 of them were in extra innings, and 1 was a blown 9th-inning lead. It's still relevant.
Crazy.
With a win tonight, the Mariners will match their franchise mark in August of 2001 with a 20-5 record. And you would assume, because all three of these games against the A's are in the month of August. Now, I told you before this series started, the Mariners better sweep this series and win every game by 5 runs, because the way they're playing right now, that's the only way that's acceptable. But the absolute worst case scenario right now, as it seems, is the Mariners end this month 21-6 in August instead of franchise record for wins in a month. That's kind of bonkers. For as good as July was, I mean, they're going to do more. They're going to do better in August.
What a ridiculous month. This team is so hot. Look at some more of the numbers. I know we're kind of going down with the numbers here and reading off a bunch of them. But since July 1st, Luke Arkins put out a tweet about this. The Mariners are scoring the second most runs per game in the league. They are allowing the least amount of runs per game. They have the highest run differential in that time. Also, their run differential for the season is now 101. That's 5th in baseball. This is an offense that did not hit for 3 months.
Do you want some more context on that offense? This is another one from OptoStats, a really underrated follow, by the way. They have this orange and grayish profile picture, if you're curious. They do stats on all sports, but their baseball ones are great, and they've been all over this Mariners win streak. On this Mariners offense, this was during their second 8-game win streak, and this was 7 games into it. During that stretch, the Mariners had 93 hits, 39 extra base hits, 17 home runs, and 13 stolen bases. No other team in Major League history has reached all those numbers over a 7-game span. I couldn't believe that when I saw it. I'm like, there's no way, but apparently that's true.
Credit all these bats. We've talked about Julio being hot. It's not it was a storyline on Friday, but let's just continue it here. Teoscar stays hot. He is by definition on a heater by everything he's doing right now. Everybody's hot. Everybody's swinging it well.
JP is now past the entire shortstop crop, essentially.
There is not one hitter that is currently on the roster who comes to the plate and I have a knot in my stomach. Nobody. There's nobody that comes up to the plate right now where I say, yeah, I don't really want him up there. I am okay with every single guy being up there.
Yeah, I am too. This is magical. Now they got to keep going through September because, as we've mentioned, we sat here and we said, okay, the Mariners need to be 3 games into a playoff spot by the time they get through this weekend. Well, they're right now currently 3 games into a playoff spot. I believe they're 3 games ahead of the first team out of the wild card, if I'm correct. So that they are where they are right now. And we expect with a series against the A's and a series against the Mets this weekend, that's going to grow. Whether they stay in the division lead or not, we're expecting them to be more than 3 games up in a playoff spot. So now they got to hold it, right? They're not going to get a soft August to continue. September is coming along, and I'm really not looking forward to them playing the Dodgers. By the way, the only team better than them over the last 25 games, the Dodgers. I didn't even realize that. That really kind of flew under the radar. I look up, I'm like, oh, the Mariners are the best team in the league right now. Look how Dodgers are, 21-4 in their last 25 games.
Which is funny because their roster on paper does not feel anywhere close to as good as it's been in previous years. But here they are. You know, if you look at the Mariners schedule, before they truly hit that gauntlet, we talked about after the Mets weekend is when it starts to get tough. There are some games in that next stretch of 9 that they should win. They get the Reds, who are good and competing for an NL playoff spot. They're not a better team than the Mariners. They play the Rays, who we know are much depleted right now. And then they play the Angels. So that is a stretch where it's not easy, but they should come out on top in terms of win-loss record over that period of games before the real tough schedule starts. But yes, they should be in this week of games between the A's and Mets, 5-1.
Yeah.
And then they should be above 500 in that stretch against the Rays, Reds, and Angels before the true gauntlet of the schedule hits to end the year.
Yeah, I concur with you on that. It's going to be interesting how they see these next weeks going. Like Julio said, which I thought was a really interesting quote and one I feel pretty confident in. He said he doesn't even feel like the team is hot, right? He just feels like they're playing up to their standard. Now, that could just be player speak. I'd say some of it is they're hot. Like, you don't win all these games without being hot and doing everything correct. And part of being hot is everyone playing well at the exact same time, which doesn't always happen. But I'm curious to see, how much is like momentum actually a factor? I'm personally not even really a big believer in momentum. I think momentum is only as much as something you can execute yourself, because like, for example, yesterday's results won't win you the game tomorrow or today. Say, get my days mixed up. But that's kind of the point, right? So like, if my theory is true and they're just like, oh, we're just going to keep playing well because we keep believing in ourselves. It has nothing to do with momentum. It's just that they feel like they're finally at a point where they can all execute at the same time and they all feel comfortable with it. And then you keep rolling and you keep winning, and all of a sudden maybe they take 3 or 4 from the Rays and take a series from the Dodgers and then beat up on the Reds and the Angels. So it's possible.
You can't quantify momentum, which is a fair take that you don't think it's really a thing. I'm sure players believe it's a real thing. I'm sure people in that clubhouse believe it's a real thing. But yeah, you can't quantify it. So I think it's more the fact of everybody's just playing well right now.
Can't complain. They just got to keep mashing, and the starting pitch needs to stay healthy as well.